Allah. Hey. It says here we are live. Are we live? Yeah, we're live on YouTube. My name is Neil Patterson. This is a very special Mother's Day edition of SUPcast. This is my podcast, and we've been doing it live. I tried it last week, and we're going to try it again. We're going to try to do it live again, so we're going live. I mean, this is like gloves are off, and we are dropping frames. Great. Fantastic. Hey there in the chat. Is it real choppy? Are we dropping lots of frames here? In the chat, can you tell me? Is it terrible? Is it terrible? It says we're dropping 18% of the frames. Someone in the chat holler. Please. What's up, y'all? The Quarantine Phil Thomas Katt here. Who's down hours power? Hey, how bad is the frame droppage? How bad is the frame droppage? Okay, it's going down. I feel like maybe... Okay, it's going way down. It stopped. Okay, it's saying it's fine. All right, here we are. This is SUPcast Live, and we are very soon going to have the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Phil Thomas Katt. Phil Thomas Katt of the Uncharted Zone YouTube channel. Phil Thomas Katt, radio personality, singer, songwriter, DJ, musician, video editor, homie, friend of the band Downtown Brown, and friend of many on the internet. He brought you Mark Gormley. Mark Gormley. He changed the lives of many people, and he's showcased musicians from all over the globe on his UZTV, Love It Like You Should YouTube channel. We had the pleasure of meeting the man, I think in like 2009, and we did our first music video for the song Density off of the Back from the Dead album. Yes. And since then, we've made 3 music videos with Mr. Phil Thomas Katt. 3. Count them 3. And I'm in Long Beach, California right now. We're still stuck in quarantine, and they're starting to implement the reopening of the state of California as well as other places. And I'm just wondering in my brain, hey, you know, is there going to be a second wave? Is it going to get weird? Is it going to get worse? Who knows? But all we have to is right now, you know, all we have is right now. My mother's 3,500 miles away, so I can't see her, but I will be doing a Zoom chat with her later. And currently we are just awaiting Mr. Phil Thomas Katt to hop on their Zoom call. So how's everyone doing? Anyone in the chat? You wanna holler? There's 2 of you. But I figure if you're gonna do a podcast, you know, going live is like, you know, it's not pre-recorded. My hands are shaking right now, you know? This is like it's like being on stage. It's like, but it's just me and a microphone. Feeling kind of naked here. Feeling kind of naked waiting for Mr. Phil Thomas Katt. But I've been sweating a lot, and I had sushi yesterday. That was good. We had takeout sushi. And just trying not to get super fucking anxious and pissed off. Lately, it's been getting to me. I've been getting kind of mad. Kind of feeling like I lack zero control, and kind of just wishing, you know, I wasn't that fucking happy in regular life. I was kind of a depressed dude before the shit even happened. And now, you know, what do you do when you're already kind of fucking a bummed out guy, and then something like this happens, and you realize that all the shit you were bummed out about and all the shit that didn't go your way in life is pretty minuscule in the scheme of things. Once it gets to the point where you can't fucking do anything, you realize that all that shit you were bummed out about was all pretty trivial. So I guess it's been very eye-opening for me to be stuck, unable to do shit. And yeah, I remember my biggest problem when I was on my last tour, I was on tour with Guttermouth, is that I had to come back to LA and get a regular job because I had gotten laid off from my other job. Because, it takes a lot of money to live out here. And I just remember being all bummed out. And then I came back here and it's like, you can't get a job unless I get a job at Sprouts or something. I don't know. It just puts things into perspective. Okay, Phil Thomas Katt has entered the waiting room. Okay, this is SUPcast, and here we go. Let's admit Mr. PTK. Phil, are you there? Phil Thomas Katt. Howdy, sir. Can you hear me? Mr. Phil.
Yes, Neil.
All right, here we go. We are live. Keep talking there so I can get your level.
Okay, I could do the normal thing that we used to do in radio, testing 1, 2, 3, 4, or I could just simply say it's good to see you, man. It really is. I'm glad you're doing well.
It's good to see you. Let me get this on gallery view here, and then let's go full screen here. And we are rolling. Currently, we are live on YouTube. I started this podcast in the summer, and I was recording it in my van. That was the whole motif of the podcast, is that we would have guests, and it would be, people I was on tour with, or just, people who front bands, or, just all types of weirdos, and we would have them in the van. That was this whole setup for the show, is that they're in the van, but we can't be in close quarters anymore, so I had to figure out how to do this remotely. But it's also opened up the possibility for me to talk to people, say on the Gulf Coast of Florida, like yourself. So it has, what I felt like was a closed door has actually opened up many, many doors. And now you and I are talking via Zoom, and we are live on the internet.
Indeed. And so tell me this, do you prefer doing these things live, or would you prefer a recorded format? I mean, because I have my preferences when I'm doing a show.
There's an added pressure when it's live.
You're not drinking bleach, are you?
No, this right here is H2O.
Okay, good.
Yeah, no Lysol yet. I have yet to try the Lysol that was recommended by the higher powers for us to, even though he said he was joking. I don't know. I've been trying to avoid the news, but yeah, but live, being live, yeah, it's my hands are a little shaky. I'm a little nervous, and but we would always record the podcast live, so there was an element of live to that as well. Except everything was just you could go in and edit it later, but it's kind of like the gloves are off. This just is what it is. We're going.
Yeah, there's a certain energy about doing live compared to a recorded thing, I would think.
Absolutely. Sure. And yeah, I'm definitely like sweating a little bit.
Oh, no need for that. No need for that. Fire up the air conditioner. Surely it's cooler than that out there.
Yeah, well, I don't have air conditioning. I'm in a basement apartment though, luckily, and the air, it's kind of cooler down here because we're a little below ground level. Which is for Southern California, there isn't a whole lot of basements, but we're in a basement, and it's an older neighborhood. It's in Long Beach, California. The neighborhood is like a historic Long Beach neighborhood. A lot of these houses were built in the early 1900s, so they're giant houses that have been bought up by property companies, and then they are essentially just everyone in this neighborhood rents because we're all, no one makes a lot of money. No one really owns anything in this neighborhood. We're all just kind of, we pay the landlord.
Indeed, I hear you, man.
So are you still in the same spot in Pensacola that we did all the videos at?
Yeah, yes, I sure am. I've been here probably close to 100 years now.
The same studio.
Yeah, well, no, that's not actually true, because for many years I was out in apartments and I had small studios and, things like that. But this is the first place that I set up a green screen set, that's for sure. And officially, the thing that I find coolest about the room that I'm in right now, because this was my parents' house years and years ago, and I wrote my first song right in this room.
Okay.
And so it's the ninth studio that I've had when you count all the different locations in the apartments and rented houses through the years. And so it kind of fits my Studio 9 as well. So I kind of like that.
Yeah. So you've moved around a lot. This is where you ended up though.
Well, yeah, I moved around in my youth quite a bit. I mean, I worked in radio, up and down the dial. You know how that is. You've heard the song, surely, WKRP.
Oh, absolutely. Have you seen the episode of WKRP, the Thanksgiving episode, where they're throwing the turkeys out the window?
Indeed, I have, and that was a pretty wild thing. It was
such a classic episode. I lived with a gentleman that was obsessed with WKRP, and I actually think who was the actor that played? Who's the black actor that played the DJ?
Oh, Venus.
Vernon Reed. What was his name? Venus
Tim
Flytrap.
Reed, I believe. Tim Reed.
Tim Reed. Okay, so get this. Tim Reed was in another show called Simon and Simon.
Yeah, which I recall that.
And he played a character, and I didn't know this until after I started my band, but he played a character named Downtown Brown.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and that was brought to my attention because we came up with the band name we were at an IHOP, and we were playing funk music mixed with punk rock and heavy metal, and Downtown Brown just kind of came off my old drummer's tongue. He's just like, why don't I call it Downtown Brown? It sounds funky. And so that's how the name came to be. No real meaning behind it. Just it sounds funky. So there you go. There's the WKRP, Simon and Simon, Downtown Brown from Detroit connection with Phil Thomas Katt.
Well, very cool.
So when did you start in radio and where did you grow up? Did you grow up in the Gulf Coast?
Yeah. I've been here forever. And I started working in radio probably around 78, the fall of 78. That's when I first got my first radio job. Before that, though, I was touring around, playing skating rinks, trying to be the teen idol.
Okay, and so since you can remember, you were a music fan and wanted to be a performer, and you pursued that before you got into radio.
Yeah, actually, I got into radio because I felt, especially during the time period when DJs could actually pick the music they wanted, I felt that it would be a stepping stone within my music career.
Okay, so if you got in on the inside, you might be able to throw your own music on the dials and
exactly, and have friends that work there as well. You don't mind playing my song too, do you? Things like that.
So a good networking opportunity.
Yes, indeed. Plus, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and were you always an on-air personality from the get, or did you have to work your way up to that?
Actually, I applied for a job, radio jobs all around Pensacola here, several of them, and even applied for a television position, just being a cameraman. And that one I would have gotten because it was a political thing. My dad knew the manager real well, and you know how that kind of stuff goes.
Oh yeah.
But the day that the guy called me for that TV job to tell me to come on into work tomorrow, I had just gotten called from a radio station in Fort Walton who needed an overnight guy immediately. And so they called me that afternoon. I drove to Fort Walton Beach, about 40, 50 miles from here, and went on the air that night for my first radio show.
Oh, wow. And had you had any experience previous to that, or were you kind of just thrown to the wolves in a sense?
Well, the only real radio experience I had previous to that was when I was 13 or 14, I built an AM radio transmitter from a schematic, and I started broadcasting in the area where I was living. And the FCC came and closed me down and fined my dad.
Oh, wow.
So I left radio for a little while.
So you were a renegade DIY radio guy from the get.
Yeah, I was on pirate radio before pirate radio was cool.
Yeah. There's a Shooter Jennings album. Do you know who Shooter Jennings is?
The name does sound familiar, but I'm not extremely.
He's Waylon Jennings' kid.
Okay.
And he does a mixture of rock and psychedelia and country music. And he has a concept album that's actually narrated by Stephen King. And Stephen King is the pirate radio DJ. That's like the last pirate radio DJ as the New World Order is taking over and they're killing all free speech. And it's a really cool concept album. It's called Hierophant. You definitely should check it out because it definitely like the music tells us kind of like post-apocalyptic story, but it's all congealed together by Stephen King as this pirate radio shit-talking DJ saying, you know, hold your middle fingers in the air and let's go. Like we're fighting for our right for free speech, and then it ends kind of tragically. I don't want to give it spoilers away, but it's a really compelling album.
Wow, that's very cool. You know, I had the opportunity to meet Waylon Jennings many years ago at backstage at the fair here in town.
That's amazing. Yeah, I'm sure you've being in radio and located where you are, I'm sure there's a lot of people passing through that you were able to meet over the years.
Oh, indeed there was. I mean, if not meet, at least see free.
Yeah.
So, but because I've been to a number of concerts through the years, country, rock, a little bit of everything, because I worked in both sides. My first radio job was what they used to call middle of the road.
Okay.
We played a little bit of country, a little bit of rock and roll, you know, and maybe some Donnie and Marie in between, you know, something like that. But no, we played everything from Dean Martin to the Bee Gees at that station. And so that really, and even before then, it gave me an appreciation for all genres pretty much.
Yeah, that's cool. It didn't adhere to a singular format. Like things were people a little bit more open-minded back then as far as in radio are concerned. It wasn't so concise.
It was when I got into radio right at first, it was the early days of the music directors and program directors controlling the DJs. It still hadn't taken totally into effect in my early days. By the time I left radio, it had total control. And so, in fact, it was one of the reasons I left radio in the first place.
Yeah. So did you notice, was it a stark contrast between how you started and you just kind of like saw it seeping in that you didn't have the freedom that you once did as far as programming? Oh, yes. I mean, even working the overnight shifts sometimes, by the time the corporations were fully in control of the radio stations and the record companies were making sure they were getting their songs played, they had scanning softwares that would listen to the station 24 hours a day and make sure that they're getting the right amount of plays that the music director guaranteed them. Oh, wow. Gross. Well,
that's not the grossest part. The grossest part was as this began to emerge, when a local artist or an uncharted artist would come around with their material, their music, their albums, or even CDs later, the program directors and music directors would generally just throw that in the trash.
Oh, wow.
Because I rescued a lot of albums that way, just for my own personal collection.
Yeah, because you're an artist yourself, and you're a champion of that local artist trying to get heard. And is that where the name The Uncharted Zone came from? Did it come from, you know, the Uncharted? Is that what it refers to?
Exactly. That's exactly what it refers to. I started it actually on Catline, brought it to my radio show a little bit until they canceled it. And then after that, I decided to go into television. I did that until we went internet, you know.
So I was reading in the Vice interview, the Catline, that was your own radio show. What format was that?
Well, Catline was an answering machine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, well, it was kind of weird. I mean, I kind of got the idea. My dad had an answering machine, and he was doing silly messages on it. And I thought, you know, that's kind of cool. And so I started kind of doing that myself, although I got a little more radical than my dad ever did. But it just gained a following. And the next thing I knew, I had to put in a second phone line because it was all landlines back then, just to be able to get personal phone calls.
Wow. Have you heard of the group They Might Be Giants from New York?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, they did a thing back in the day in like late '80s. It was called Dial a Song, and they would record on an answering machine, and they would like loop just these simple, silly little songs, and you could just call the number at any time, and it would always be something different because they were always updating it, and it was a thing. It was a very interactive thing. So, would you, as far as format is concerned, would your answering machine service, what sort of content would you be putting on there?
Well, I was putting on clips of my music from my album, which wasn't even an album at that point. Most of it was just 45 RPMs and master tapes.
Okay.
But I was putting clips of those songs on there, plus doing comedy skits. And then eventually, that's when I added the Uncharted Zone. A special day of the week, I would do that to play other local artists in the area because I wanted them to have the opportunity to have the success that I had just simply from my answer machine promotion, because I sold a bunch of cassettes back then, a whole bunch of them, enough that I actually was able to buy a car cash.
Wow. So it was working. Catline was working.
Yes, it was on the local level.
What years was it in operation?
It began to emerge 85, 86, and it stayed around in that style and format at least until 88, 89, maybe a little bit longer.
I read also in the Vice interview, did you actually fake your own death on a Catline skit?
Actually, yes, I did, because my first album, after I finished recording 3 more songs, which I needed to add to all my old 45s and a few master tapes. And so after I recorded those 3 songs, I wanted to release an album, and I wanted to call it 9 Lives. And so I thought it would be cool if I died the day before. And then I got condolences on the line. I mean, they were all night long. Oh, I'm so sad you're dead, Phil.
Oh, no.
I'm serious. I even have proof because I have them all on tape still.
Yeah.
But the wild thing about it was the next morning, they all went back in to hear my new message, and my simple statement was, guess you forgot cats have 9 lives. Now you can.
Nice. So,
and it worked well.
So Catline, was that going? Were you still working at the radio station and doing Catline?
For a little bit, they kind of intertwined. I mean, there was one point when Catline got so popular that I was offered a job at the most popular FM station in this area. And it was in Mobile. I didn't want to have to drive 45 minutes or an hour to get to work every day or every evening.
Yeah.
And so I stupidly didn't take that job. And they were an important station, the type of station that made hits.
Yeah.
And so I think it could have helped me tremendously, but my own youthful fears kept me from that. And so that was a big mistake, I feel, that I did. And so I didn't go back into radio full time, probably at least for another 2 or 3 years, probably around near 1990, 91.
So it was kind of like in Wayne's World when they're offered the big money contract to go corporate, and you just said, F it, no, I'm going to stick with Catline.
Unfortunately, yes.
But, I mean, in hindsight, things probably wouldn't have worked out the way they did if you would have went into, I mean, your life may have gone on a different path.
Well, that's certainly true because, I look at, the old Back to the Future movie. Everything you do different can change it, like the butterfly effect, And so, I think that's true in life. And you really never know what would have happened had you done it this way instead of that way or whatever.
Yeah,
it's fun.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's fun to think about, but it's kind of scary too sometimes.
Absolutely, because it's even minuscule decisions can impact and change the trajectory of your life in a big, big way. I never thought in a million years that I would be living in Southern California and quarantined in Southern California. I think way too much, and I sit around thinking about it. I'm just like, how did I end up here, and how was this so long ago, and should I have done something differently? I'm a little in my head too much, a little anxious about everything. I'm trying to work on it without drugs.
I find the best thing to do is just do things that you enjoy. And then, I don't put competition or competitiveness within my music or my art. To me, I'm just doing it because I enjoy it. Now, don't get me wrong. I got to make a living, and I hope, that things go well. But that's not why I'm doing it, especially now. Now, back when I was young, trying to be a teen idol, I was trying to write hits all the time.
Yeah.
But nowadays, I'm just doing art.
Well, I definitely pick up that vibe from you, especially after we met and we worked together for the first time. It's you do what you do because it is you, and it's a very sincere thing. And I feel, especially in the internet with the virality stuff, and everyone's trying to get seen by everyone. I feel like a lot of people's intentions aren't very pure, but from the very and from the very first time me and my friends saw you on the internet, there was a sincerity to it, and I feel like you'd be doing what you do no matter if any of your videos went viral or if they had because you just even looking in the background there. I mean, you are a music fan. You it's your whole life. You're a rock and roll guy, and I always really thought that was cool.
Well, thank you, man. I appreciate that. And I also pride myself in getting fired from a radio job for being too rock and roll.
Which job was this? Was it the one we were talking about previously?
Well, I had gone to work for a country station, and which I liked as well, and so I was doing it. But we got a new guy come in, and I was wearing an ear ring and maybe some eyeliner and all that stuff. And so he all of a sudden started picking on me, the new boss man. He didn't like me anymore.
Yeah.
So his only reason he could fire me from the country station legitimately, because I had relatively high ratings, was say that I was just too rock and roll, too damn rock and roll.
Well, what's that guy doing now? What year was this? Was this after Catline and the?
This was during the heyday of Catline, actually, because I had gone to work part-time at the radio station there before Catline started really picking up in popularity.
Yeah.
So, it was like my day job, even though it was at nighttime. But and so I did that. And when the new bosses came in, that's when all that started.
So the Uncharted Zone started as a segment on Catline where you would play other bands' music.
Yes, it did.
When did you start adding a video element to that?
Well, I had been doing video type stuff because I was renting cameras way back in the 80s, because they cost a fortune back then. And so you could rent them on the weekend and get some cool videos done right there in your living room. And so, because you weren't renting a camcorder, that camera, you had a huge VCR that you had to wear as a shoulder strap.
Oh, wow.
If you went on mobile shoots.
Okay.
That's why I did a lot of that right there at home. I just plug it into my VCR and wham, all I rented was a camera. But I started doing videos during that time period, although, gosh, looking back, even in the 70s, because I had an 8mm movie camera as well. But I started doing it for other artists when I started doing the show on television, because then, of course, I needed the video content to be on the show. And so I was just going around to all the different music venues and capturing bands and songwriters and whatever was there.
And was the television show, was that the Uncharted Zone? Was it on actual television pre-YouTube?
Yes, it was. It was. It was on a local channel here, which was a cable access channel, but we had to pay for our airtime. And so we would pay for the airtime and then sell commercials to stay on the float. Okay,
so you had to hustle just to get it on TV.
Oh, yeah. Everything I've ever done, I had to hustle. I tell you, there is no non-hustling times.
I think that's very punk rock of you, Phil. Because the DIY ethos, as far as my understanding of it, was early 80s hardcore bands getting in a van and driving around the country. But you were you were doing a radio show in the 70s by yourself. You were DIY before it was even called DIY. That's fantastic.
So. Well, thank you.
So, okay, so after Catline, after the country station, then came cable access, the Uncharted Zone. It was called the Uncharted Zone from the jump.
Yeah, I called it the Uncharted Zone even on Catline.
Okay, and what year did that start being on television?
That would have probably been 95, 96, somewhere along in there.
Okay, so when you started the YouTube channel, you were already over a decade in to doing the UZTV on actual television.
Oh, yes, easy.
So when you started uploading on the YouTube channel, were you just creating new content for YouTube, or did you re-upload some of the older content that had already been on UZTV?
Well, a little of both, because that's what I did on the shows. I mean, I generally got new content whenever possible, but I also showcased classic and older content as well. And for a while, we did a local top 10 show and had people vote on an internet survey for the local videos. And that was on for several years too. And that was a spinoff show from the original Uncharted Zone. Okay.
So you've been a busy guy from
I guess so. Yeah, I guess so. But I've enjoyed making music videos, especially after it got easier with nonlinear digital editing.
Yeah.
See, I started back in the razor blade days, where if you cut the tape or film in the wrong place, that's just too bad. There wasn't no go back button. And so, but that was an education, because as I moved into the digital nonlinear area of video editing, I already had the experience of a lot of this stuff that I think was very helpful in moving forward.
So did it just seem like piece of cake now that you could, instead of cutting with scissors, you could just cut with a press of the computer button?
Well, I'm not going to say that entirely, and I'll be brutally honest here. When I first started working with computers, I was scared to death of them. Scared I was going to hit the wrong button and bam, something's wrong.
Right.
And right at first, it wasn't total nonlinear editing. At first, it was using the computer just as a switcher, like switching from camera to camera or videotape to videotape.
Like a live broadcast switcher.
Exactly.
Okay.
But once the nonlinear happened, that changed everything dramatically. And I enjoyed it, but it was always a continuing learning experience. In fact, it still is.
Yeah, I've been trying to get into the streaming thing, and it's been, that's all I've been doing for like the last month is watching YouTube tutorials and trying to teach myself all of this tech jargon, bit rate. And it's crazy because in the type of machine that it takes in order to push out and to render in real time, because I mean, you're a video guy, most videos render in the program, and then you render it again and spit it out, and then there you go, you have the video. But with the streaming, these computers are so fast, they're literally rendering everything in real time and then spitting it out over the internet in real time, and it's insane. And it's just been a huge learning curve, because I've always just been a guy that puts a guitar around me and says some dumb shit into a microphone live, because that's just, I've never had to learn a whole lot of other skills. I never learned how to record my own music. I got into video editing maybe late 2000s, but I feel like I've been behind the curve, because there's kids that are 8 years old that are making fully produced hip hop beats and making these lush, illustrious sounds that sound professional, and they're just doing it in their bedroom with a MacBook. It's wild. You can do video editing on your smartphone in 1080p and 4K. It's
yes.
Yeah, so I understand what you were saying about being a little apprehensive about the adhering to new technology. Definitely.
But once I got into it and I understood it a lot better, it kind of changed my attitude towards it tremendously, I've got to say. And the thing about what I like about doing it today compared to the old days is I can put it out there instantly.
Yeah.
You know, the moment I'm finished with the edit, although I usually have a special upload day that I show my newest releases.
Yeah.
But, you know, going back to what you were saying, that everybody can edit on their smartphone and all this stuff. When this stuff first started happening, it scared me to death. I thought, because, you know, I started the video portion of my career back in the days when the cameras were still relatively expensive.
Yeah.
And so your average guy didn't have one. And so I was able to have one, go out and create the show. And then now, as time has progressed, everybody has one with them all the time. So if there's an improv performance, you got it immediately. And so I used to fear that, but now I embrace it because it's forced me to step back into my art as an artist more so. And I like that.
Yeah, I feel like some of the fear that, I don't even know if it's a fear, but just the reality that no one's as special, as, you know, you would have to really go out and seek and pay an engineer to put out an album and do all this stuff. And now it's so accessible that there's an overabundance of music, content, video, whatnot being created and just thrown out into the void because it's global and the internet is so vast and there's so much now. The question is, how do you stand out? How do you, and
see that,
go ahead.
That's one advantage that I feel like I've had was I had the gift of promotion, if you can call it that. I always had ideas of how to promote myself and move forward, which places to perform and do my shows at back in the early days. You know, like the skating rink was my big thing back in my Teen Idol days. And so I was always lucky enough to kind of have a knack for knowing what was a good way to promote. And I think that's been part of my blessing, if not most of it.
That's huge because I have friends that they create amazing things, but it's almost like they don't put it out there as hard as they should, or maybe they're a little apprehensive in believing, you know, but I'm the type of person where I've been constantly, I remember I used to have this knapsack. And when I first started my band in the early 2000s, it was like kind of a man purse, you know, go around the shoulder. But I would keep hundreds of flyers in there constantly. Like not even if we had a show coming up, if we had an album or, you know, we had a song and this was pre-social media. This was pre-MySpace. And I was that guy. I just was super annoying. And I was at every show just throwing flyers at people. They'd throw them back at me. They'd throw it on the ground. And but that was just, I'm like, if I'm going to get heard, this is what I got to do. Got to, you know, take to the streets. Staple gun.
It is. You know, I recently had a guy contact me telling me that years ago, when I had my 45 RPMs out, I was running around an event that was happening here in town called St. Anne's Roundup. It was real popular. It was like an old Western town. So everybody went and there was booths and food and, you know, you name it. And so I was out there promoting. I was giving people copies of my 45 RPM record. Well, this guy contacted me recently and told me that me doing that influenced him to get into music. And now he's working over in Atlanta in one of the major studios.
See, that's amazing. And that's the other thing, as far as the butterfly effect and the trajectory of people's lives, it's hard for you being the individual sometimes to know that you may, through your life events, have planted a little apple seed that had completely changed the trajectory of someone else's life. And hearing that doesn't that make it all worthwhile? Yes, it does.
Yeah. It really makes you feel like, you know, there was a reason for you doing this, and it's encouraging to think that you could help someone make decisions like that. And I'm sure there were people that did the same thing for me when I look back at my youth as well.
Yeah, I'm sure there were milestone moments where a little light bulb went off in your head, and you're like, "Oh, I should do this, or
Yes.
I should do that, or I should," and yeah, and that's something that's very noticeable about you. You seem super motivated to just be Phil Thomas Katt. I feel like you probably don't have to muster up motivation. You probably get up and you just start doing stuff.
Well, basically, if you're talking about getting into character, then you're exactly right, because most of the time I'm within that character all the time anyway, because that's just who I am. And so you're right. I don't have to muster up much energy for him anymore.
So let's talk about the character Phil Thomas Katt versus the human being Phil Thomas Katt. You're saying it's one and the same.
Well, especially now. In the old days, there was probably more of a separation because I had more insecurities back in my youth and stuff. Now, I would have the same insecurities if I really cared anymore. But now I'm just going to do my thing. It's my art. So, if people like it, I'm happy. If they don't, that's fine. That's their choice.
That's a good attitude to have, especially because the internet can be toxic at times as far as the comment thread and what people have to say. But if you're comfortable with who you are, you just keep on keeping on, and you keep on Phil Thomas Catting.
That's right. I shall keep on Phil Thomas Catting.
That's good. Yeah, and I feel there is a little differentiation between me, the human being, and the stage persona, but I really think the only difference is that the stage persona... Uh-oh. Are you there? Phil, I think we lost you. Oh, no, it was going so well. Where'd Phil go? Phil, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay, it's
you froze up. I'm not sure if I froze up. I didn't feel froze up, but I think everything's cool now.
Yeah, let me minimize this real quick and just make sure we're still live here. It says we're still online. Okay, there's still people watching. Okay, we're good.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, what I was getting into saying is that the only differentiation between the stage persona that is me and the public persona that is me is that the public persona doesn't give a shit what people think. But unfortunately,
that other guy does.
The real me is I'm kind of sensitive, I want to be liked. I grew up always, my dad was kind of a hard ass. He wasn't very nice to me, and I was just the little weirdo that wasn't into sports. I was into music and art and drawing and listening to tapes and just being a weird guy. And so I think to make up for all that, there's something in my brain where it's like I want everyone to like me. So really, the persona, the Neil P persona, or Nebo is my nickname. It's seemingly I don't give a shit about anything or about what people think, but yeah, like deep down I want people to like me, and you got to come to the conclusion that not everyone's gonna like you, not everyone's gonna think you're talented, not everyone's gonna like your art, and you just got to be okay with that. You got to be secure with just accepting that type of thing.
Yeah, you really do, because everybody has different taste, and so best thing to do is just do what makes you happy, man.
So the Phil Thomas Katt character, Uncharted Zone, is now on YouTube. Can you give me a brief history of the virality of the Mark Gormley videos and how that impacted your channel and you?
Well, it surprised me, that's for sure. Not that I didn't think Mark was talented, because you have a lot of artists come through that want to do music videos when you make music videos for a living. And when Mark came through, I recognized his talent immediately, because, he's a great songwriter. Even his vocal is so unique. And to me, there's 3 reasons why you make it in show business. If you can have just one of them, you can make it. I think it's if you're first, if you're the best, or if you're unique. And I definitely think Mark's vocals were unique. and even his persona, for that matter.
Absolutely. And so it was just business as usual. You'd been doing this for years and years. You're making videos for all types of different artists, and you're showcasing all types of Uncharted artists from the area and surrounding. And so it's just business as usual. This gentleman, did you know him before? Or did he approach you just out of nowhere? I want to do a music video.
Oh, he had been watching our TV show.
Okay.
And so he just called and wanted to do music videos. And of course I had him come over and we did music videos. And, to me, you were asking how it changed our channel or helped our channel or defined our channel or whatever you want to call it. And I'm sure in a lot of respects, that was very helpful for us. It gave us recognition. It turned the spotlight on us for a while, which helped, I think, all of the artists that were on the channel for a long time, for sure. And so I think Mark helped us in that respect. But the bottom line is it all boils around to talent. If you're great, you're going to get noticed. If you're not, you won't as well. And it's just as simple as that.
What was going through your mind when you started noticing, because you're able on YouTube, you're able to see the view count and the analytics and the comments. How did you react initially to the influx of attention that the channel was getting?
Well, honestly, at the time, I didn't notice it because I was busy, making videos and things. Yeah. YouTube was just yet another outlet. I mean, I didn't think about the fact that there was view counts and trendings and all that stuff way back then when we started. So to me, all of that came as a big surprise. I can recall there was a band that called us one night. It seems like it was kind of late, really like 10:30. And they says, yeah, we want to make a music video. We're from Austin, Texas. We're playing the event over here soon. So we want to come over there, shoot this music video and get it out so we can use it to promote ourselves at the event or something. So I thought they were faking me out. I thought it was a prank call. Somebody just calling to get me to schedule them in for a music video, but not show up, because they were coming from Austin.
It's a long drive.
Right. And so, to me, it just seemed unbelievable to the point. Plus, the guy's name was Yogi, and that seemed unusual to me as well. And although it's not, I mean, I know it's not. I mean, there's Yogi Bear, and there's Yogi.
There's many yogis. There's people who practice yoga that are yogis.
Yeah, exactly. You're right. But anyway, so we sit here. We had them scheduled to come in like 1:00 in the afternoon or something that day, and I halfway didn't really expect them to come, and so I wasn't really thinking that they were going to be here. Sure enough, here they come driving up in their little band vehicle, van, and unloading equipment. We got in there and shot the music video, and it did well. I mean, it did real well. And then bands from all over started calling, like you guys and like the Hard Lessons and
it's
several others.
Another Detroit band, Hard Lessons, right there.
Yes.
It's wild because as far as all the content, we've made dozens of music videos over the years, but the Poot in the Boot video on UZTV, that's approaching 40,000 views. So it's our most viewed music video on YouTube is the one you made for us.
That's your biggest hit. That's cool.
Yeah. There's a song on Spotify that performs really well for people to stream, but as far as music videos are concerned, if you look up Downtown Brown, that's the first thing that comes up. Is that silly ass song. And
that's cool.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, because my friends and I, we were big into Gormley, like Little Wings, like all of the videos you put out from Mark Gormley, we were just giant fans of. So I remember I was in New Orleans and I was sleeping in my van, and I don't know how the hell I did it, but somehow on the internet, we were doing this interview segment. Because we were kind of like doing Jackass style, like guerrilla, we would tour and vlog and film our adventures, and we wanted to interview Mark Gormley, and this was before we did our first video with you, which is '09, and I somehow I got his phone number and called him and tried to get an interview with him, and it didn't work out. And I think shortly after that, I was just like, we should just make a video with Phil Thomas Katt, because we were rolling through. We would always roll through the Gulf Coast, because we would come from Austin, and then we'd do New Orleans, and then we'd go, through the Gulf, and then we'd play in Pensacola generally, and then we'd do Tallahassee, go down to Clearwater, and then we'd shoot across to Orlando, and then we go back up the East Coast. But yeah, that's the power of the internet is even the biggest movie stars, they're a direct message away. It's just whether or not they choose to respond.
That's right. That's something I think about a lot. Back in the day, celebrities didn't have much contact with fans. I mean, maybe a fan letter or two that they may never have answered or even wrote you back.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the fans of today demand interaction with their, for lack of a better word, their stars. And I think that's important by today's standards.
Yeah, it's wild, because I'm certainly not a huge success. I'm maybe a mediocre success as far as like being able to make music pay some of the bills, but so I'm definitely not a star. I'm just a guy that likes making songs. But I have people that I barely know that are touched by I'm an alcoholic in recovery since 2008, and I have strangers just who like my music, who tell me that I'm an inspiration for them to not drink. And it's like, wow, it's like, I never am trying to be an example. I always thought I was a fuck up, but anyone can just direct message me. It's crazy. What was that noise? Did you hear that?
I think that's my Facebook getting messages.
Boop, boop.
Yeah. Something like that.
But if the internet didn't exist, A, I wouldn't know about your television show. B, I wouldn't have been able to contact you and pitch the idea of doing a music video. So, and now here we are on the internet talking thousands of miles away in real time. Crazy.
And the thing that I like about the internet compared to the old way, in the old way, you had to work your butt off to get a record deal. You get your record deal, then you got to tour in support of that record. And you barely made anything, and especially on your recorded product, you might have made some show money, but as far as your records, you were getting 2 and 3 cents a sale on those things. And so today, many of the artists, I think some of them still want to seek that record deal, but I think you can make more money on your own, because if you have a hit, your income can be enormous. The only advantage I think that the labels have today is their promotional dollars. And that's the last stronghold. Used to, they had the recording studios, they had the distribution system, but all that's internet now, or at least home studio.
Yeah. And so the artists have taken out the middleman in many respects.
Certainly have.
But the thing is even with that promotional dollar, I feel like it comes, you're indebted to the man per se, the record guy. Like, you have to pay that back through streams or some sort of revenue source. But we were on tour with a band recently, and and they were saying that in the contract, the only way they had to repay the giant advance they got in the 90s for this album is through record sales. So they're just like, okay, so we'll just owe them that money forever. and he's laughing about it, because that record, they got like a $500,000 advance that they're never going to pay back, but they're just laughing about it because the way the contract is worded, they can only pay that loan to the record company back with sales of that specific record.
And that used to be the standard way always back in the day. Because I can recall that as well on my contract with King Records.
When you were a teen idol, did you sign a lot of autographs?
Yes, I did, actually.
Yes.
They would line up at the skating rinks. It was fun.
And so you've been, Phil, Is Phil Thomas Katt? That's your real name, right?
Sure. Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. So you had an amazing stage name from the get-go.
I say blessed with it.
Yeah, blessed. Bless up. Wow, that's really cool. So it's now it's just business as usual. You're just running the UZ TV YouTube channel, correct?
Yeah, pretty much making music videos for artists when or if they come around. Other variations, of course, I make the money from T-shirt sales and CDs and stuff like that. So yeah, this is all I'm doing. Let me just say that.
That's amazing. Well, that's success to me. The way I see it from over here, you're a self-made man. and that has to feel good, knowing that you've been essentially neck deep in what you love for a very long time at this point.
Yeah, but there were a lot of years before these days where I was, working regular jobs, working in retail, other variations of work. I stayed mostly within radio, but I did work in retail quite a bit and quite a number of years off and on, especially in my major youth, like my teens and early 20s.
I remember there was an interview with the lead singer of GWAR before he passed, and he was talking about how he couldn't wait to get off tour so he could go back to painting houses because that was way better money than being in GWAR. So I feel like with a lot of artists, you have to supplement your income with some sort of actual dependable income stream, because the creative endeavors, it can be so wishy-washy, flighty,
And that's true, especially with show business. It's like riding a wave. I always say you try to make enough money when you're high up on that wave so that when you're in one of those low valleys, you can survive, if possible. And it's not always been possible, trust me.
Right. Yeah, right now. How is Phil Thomas Katt's quarantine existence? What are you feeling like you were kind of made because you're in your bunker, you're in your studio, and you're working on projects, but how has it affected things outside of your studio life and creative life?
Well, we've lost, and especially in March, we didn't book anything in April, and I hadn't booked anything in May. I have had projects lingering that I was working on, backlog projects.
Yeah.
But we lost 3 deals in March that was painful because it was totally unexpected.
Yeah.
And shoot, man, one of them was a promotional deal for RCA Records too, so that really sucked.
Oh no.
But
that's terrible. But sorry, man.
It's all right. Nonetheless, I think, as they said, things will circle back. So hopefully they will. Hopefully those particular jobs will.
Now, Pensacola, how big of a city is that? Is it considered a smaller city in the scheme of things?
Yeah, I think so. Relatively small. And yeah, definitely. It's I'm comfortable with the size. I've been here a long time, so it's almost hard for me to compare. But I mean, I've been to some other cities that were huge to me, like New Orleans and Atlanta, and even Birmingham, for that matter, was a big city to me. But Pensacola's it's grown a lot through the years, but it's not, definitely by no means considered a huge city.
So are the restrictions as far as the quarantine are concerned, are they a little lax because it's not as much of a metropolis? Or what is the general vibe that you get from the city you reside in as far as all of this pandemic stuff is concerned?
Now, I wouldn't say they're relaxed. For a good while, the beaches were closed entirely. You couldn't even go out there.
Yeah.
And a lot of the businesses are closed. Non-essential businesses were, like hair salons and, lots of different things. The only thing that was open basically was grocery stores and pharmacies, pretty much. And that's beginning to open up a little bit. I mean, from what I understand, beauty salons are opening Monday. So, I don't know. I mean, I guess everything's an experiment.
Yeah, it's wild. I mean, this is unprecedented. I'm 39 years old, but most people I talk to have never experienced anything like this, like a full-blown lockdown. California is real strict too about it. But I'm just trying to heed the warnings of the CDC, and my girlfriend and I, we ride our bikes, but we keep our masks on, and we just try to stay away from people. But I love people, and I love performing, and I love being in a van and driving from city to city and getting on stage and sweating on people. And
well, I don't think it's over forever. I mean, that's the thing. Yeah. I know it's depressing right now in a lot of ways, but you got this thing going, and this is kind of cool. I've enjoyed chatting with you on this.
I'm super jazzed to have you, man. It's yeah, I'm happy. It's been because for a while, like right after the lockdown happened, I didn't do anything. I was like, I'm not gonna live stream. I'm not gonna do this. I'm not gonna do that. But then I got bored, and I'm like, okay, well, I have my podcast, and I'm gonna start doing live streaming concerts. And so it's gotten to the point where I went from being bored to hyper focused on this, and to the dismay of my partner, my live-in girlfriend, that we've gotten into some tussles because I'm not paying her enough attention. I'm at the computer 12 hours a day. So it's about balance. Trying.
Yeah, indeed it is. It really is. I spend a lot of time in my studio as well. And this started before the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
I was working in the daytime generally. And then about 5 or 6, I'd take off, make myself get off. Because I've been, working at home. It's almost like you're never off work. And that can weigh on you in some respects. It's like, I'm never off work, to drive you crazy to a point. But what I feel now by kind of making restrictions, and the only time that I would change that is if I had a deadline.
Yeah.
I just take off in the evenings. And so it's working pretty well for me. So everything else is pretty much the same. The only thing different that I've really done during this whole pandemic is I did a sorry about that. I did a show. I did a live show on the internet. And so that was a challenge.
Yeah, it is. It's because so much can go wrong. I mean, even during this interview right here, there was a thing that came up on my Zoom that said my internet connection is unstable, and I'm just like, we're live though. Everything, because so many things have to go right for it to pop off. There has to be a synergistic. The internet gods have to favor you for this to work out.
That's right.
Either that, or you need incredibly advanced technology, which is something that is kind of out of my price range.
Well, a lot of the problem, I think, too, is that there's so many people on the internet right now.
Oh, yeah.
Continuously. I mean, and so that's going to eat up that bandwidth, and so I think just that alone is going to make the technologies improve because they're being forced to. Yeah. I mean, you can look at it, just file sizes getting smaller, compared to WAV files to MP3s. I mean,
compression,
the whole thing is going to get better as time progresses, I believe.
We're just going to go faster, and we're going to be able to do more, and we never have to leave the house.
And we need to take greed out of the equation. That's the thing. I mean, it's when you want to charge people for faster internets, I don't know. I just don't like that. The net neutrality thing.
Yeah, it would, if it was accessible for everyone in a free way where you didn't have to pay extra to get I agree.
I actually think the internet will be free for everyone before long, because it's going to be, and I quote, the new broadcasting. Because everybody would listen to the radio or broadcast television for free, way before cable TV and all that. And even that trend is coming back as the cord cutters are happening. And so I think the same thing will happen with the internet. In order to get those advertising dollars out there that the internet wants to make, it's going to have to be free for everybody to listen to, because you get sick of spending your dollars from ads.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. Well, a lot of it is free, but I feel like, especially with the platform Twitch and some other stuff, if you don't want to see ads, that's why you have to pay, like Spotify.
Right.
You pay the $9.99 so you don't have to hear the ads, and that's how they get you. They're like, okay, you can listen for free, but there's going to be functionality issues, and we're going to just shove ads down your throat. So
right.
Good times. You got to pay for everything.
That's right.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I probably should make some food, huh? We've been going for an hour and 5.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. Is there anything? I have links in the description of this video of the UZTV YouTube channel, as well as your website and your Facebook. Is there anything else you want to plug before we wrap this up?
The only thing I might mention is that production company in New Jersey, Perpetual Doom, that's producing the documentary about me. They've done a short version of it, and they're very close, if not finished, with the full-length version, from what I understand. And if there ever is a film festival circuit again, they're going to go out on that with it.
And what's the title of the documentary?
Space Happy, the Phil Thomas Katt documentary.
Yes. So when you said the Space Happy Phil Thomas, because before you introduce every music video, it's off the cuff, right? You come up with some sort of way to introduce yourself.
Well, yes, I've been doing that since the Catline days, and so yeah. And as far as Space Happy in particular, I think I took that from an original series Star Trek episode where they says he's gone space happy.
But you don't write that. You just kind of go off the cuff. You start rolling, and then you just introduce yourself. You don't write that down. It's different every time.
Yeah, but I can't always say I'm not prepared, because I do prepare myself somewhat.
Yeah.
With an outline and to tell, like if I want to make sure that I hit a certain point in an intro or something.
How do you not repeat your introduction as far as being space happy or information seeking or the inimitable? What's the other one? There's so many.
Well, there's eccentric. There's the lovable. There's so there's a number of them, and as far as not repeating them, I can't promise that I never have.
Okay.
Who knows?
So you haven't combed through every one of your videos to make sure that there's not a repeat.
No, I didn't. I never did that. Although I do see the necessity of that.
Yeah.
I think that would be a wonderful way to spend a couple of weeks just looking through.
Yeah, you might go a little mad doing that.
I would go space happy.
You would go space. Yeah, you would become space happy. There's but I think eccentric is definitely fitting, and I think part of your eccentricity is what makes. Your eccentricity is what makes you lovable, Phil Thomas Katt. So both of those go hand in hand. I feel you are the most Phil Thomas Katt of a person that a person can be, and your eccentricity is what makes you the lovable Phil Thomas Katt. Information seeking, space happy, even. It's awesome.
Well, thank you. That's very kind of you, Nebo.
Yeah, and I'm just hoping. I'm glad you're positive. Have somewhat of a positive outlook that things will return, because that's the thing I've been wrestling with a little bit is the doom and gloom of it all, wondering if this is going to be forever, wondering if I'm going to be able to go visit my mom without worrying about getting her sick, that type of stuff, That's what weighs on me, but having conversations with positive people like yourself, it reinstills a sense of hope in a way.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And this isn't the first time there's been a health crisis like this. I mean, what about the pandemic of 1919, I believe it was?
The Spanish flu?
Yes. People were quarantined for that. And so it was eventually it faded away, I guess you could say. But so I do think things will get back to normal, although just like after any major catastrophe, there will be a new normal in a way. I mean, just like there was after 9/11. Things were quite different in the airports for sure. And I think it'll be the same way here. I mean, I'm not sure everybody be hugging each other anymore, but, I for one will miss that.
Yeah, so I guess we just have to take it as it comes and see what this new normal is going to be and adapt.
Yeah, exactly. Much like the Borg.
Did you watch the Picard show? I mean,
yes, I did.
So you're a huge Star Trek fan, just for.
Oh yeah, it's almost my religion. So yeah, I've been watching it for years.
So do you feel like a lot of your appreciation for Gene Roddenberry and the whole Star Trek universe that bled into some of the themes and motifs of the Uncharted Zone, like the space graphics and rocket ships and cool?
Well, I'm going to have to say maybe yes, although I've had an interest in space and rocket ships since I was in third grade.
Yeah.
Because I had a teacher that every time a spaceship went off, and this was back in the Gemini and Apollo days, she would roll the television into our classroom so we could watch it. And so I had an appreciation for it way back then that just continued through the years.
So it's part of Phil Thomas Katt is the appreciation and fascination with space.
Yes, it is.
And hence the space happiness.
Indeed.
So, but from that Star Trek episode, it's kind of a space madness as he's gone space happy.
Yes, that's basically what I guess the definition of it would be.
Have you seen the Ren and Stimpy where he has space madness and he's in a bathtub and he's eating a bar of soap?
No, I don't think I have seen that.
Oh, you have to see it. It
sounds traumatic.
Well, Ren is the little chihuahua and Stimpy's the big fat cat. Yeah, but they go into space and they start to go mad because they're isolated for so long. And Ren gets the space madness, and he starts eating a bar of soap, and he says, "This is my beloved ice cream bar," and he's eating the soap, and yeah, it's classic. You should definitely check it out. It's a form of space happy, the space madness episode of Ren and Stimpy.
I'll have to look that up.
Yes. Well, hey, I have to go and relieve myself and probably make myself. I'm a little shaky. I have a little too much caffeine, so I'm gonna go. I think I'm gonna get going here, Phil Thomas Katt.
All right, it's good to talk to you, man. I enjoyed this, and I hope you were happy with it.
I'm space happy with it. Live long and prosper, my friend, and stay in touch. We meet so many people in this industry, and it just feels good to reconnect. It's been like that first video we did with UZTV was 2009, so we're talking 11 years I've known you.
Yeah, that's incredible.
And we're still at it.
That's right. So far, so good.
So yeah, this has been uplifting. I really appreciate you coming on the program. This is my podcast. It's called SUPcast, and it's this is episode 34, and we got Phil Thomas Katt. Yeah, you made my day. Thanks, because I'm far away from my mom right now, and my mother is 72 years old. She's living in Dearborn, Michigan, and I can't go say hi to her, so I'm kind of bummed out. But I'm really glad we could do this. It really has been uplifting. I appreciate it.
Well, good. I enjoyed it myself, and have a cool day, my friend.
Let's see if I can do this. I can do it a little bit. Right. Not great.
Very cool. Very cool.
Thank you, Phil.
All right. Talk to you soon.
Have a great day.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. We're doing the thing. So there you go. I am Sweaty, and I am Neil Patterson, and this has been SUPcast Live, number 34. And we're doing the thing. We did the thing. Phil Thomas Katt, and I feel better about life. Talking to that dude. Wait, what an eccentric, lovable, uplifting, positive guy. And if Phil Thomas Katt thinks that things are gonna go back to a new normal, then maybe I should think the same. So that's what I'm gonna take away from that. And once again, I just want to plug the Patreon, and I want to plug the fact that you can donate down there. And I'm currently unemployed right now, so like if you want to be a nice person to Neil Patterson and you want to help me not go further into debt, the links are below. And all of the links to Phil Thomas Katt stuff are below. And we got Space Happy, the documentary that's going to be coming out, maybe full length. I guess they've released a short one. I'm going to go on YouTube, and I'm going to look for that documentary, Space Happy, the Phil Thomas Katt documentary. So thank you for tuning in with us today on Mother's Day for a very special edition of SUPcast. And I'm sweaty, and I'm going to go eat food now. Thank you so much, and have a great day, and we love you, and we will see you tomorrow maybe for the Grappleton's Beach live stream. So let's go, and we're out.